All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Hoops. It's your boy, Maddie. Thank you for your continued support. Please keep downloading and sharing us. Visit our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Instagram and X.com. Our wonderful guest today represents Calgary, Alberta. He is a former Churchill Bulldog, Calgary Dino, and was drafted by the Denver Nuggets in the 1984 NBA draft. He has represented Canada basketball on the senior men's national team, most notably at the 1984 and 1988 Olympics. He was also just recently announced as a 2024 inductee into the Canadian Basketball Hall of Fame. He is Karl Tilleman. Karl, thank you so much for joining us on Canada Hoops.
You're welcome, man. It's great to see you.
Yeah, you as well. Truly appreciate this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I know past guests and our listeners have asked me about having you join us, so we're grateful for that. How are things, Karl? Just let our listeners know and the basketball community in Canada just how you're doing, and kind of where life's at for you right now.
Thanks, Maddie. Appreciate it. I stopped practicing full-time law about a year and a half ago. Just dealing with some of the issues from that, long time neck injury a long time ago. So, but with that, I feel pretty darn fortunate to be as active as we are. Have, a bunch of 13 going on 13 grandkids, and just love, love living life.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, you've uh, worked hard and sacrificed, and now you get to enjoy the fruits of that. And you're down in the Phoenix area, I believe, right?
That's right. Yes, we
Yeah.
are.
Just
During most of
sorry.
the year, during
Okay.
about 3 months, you can find us mainly up in Alberta, Maddie, as you'd expect during the crazy times down here.
Yeah. So you guys try to get back here quite a bit and see friends and
Yeah, we
family?
do. Yeah,
Awesome.
almost every summer. Yeah, virtually every summer.
Nice. What with we touched on this briefly before, but just the Canadian basketball world is kind of on fire right now. It seems like when you're watching games, because you mentioned that you try to watch a lot of hoops as
Hmm.
well. When you're seeing the success and the type of players, both on the men's and women's side, just really take the world by storm. Just give me some thoughts on that, Karl, in terms of, you were immersed in the game and obviously as a Dino and then obviously with the national team. But when you see the product that's out there for Canada basketball, like does that make you feel pretty good? Like maybe the thought that I had a hand in this to help build this.
Yeah, I don't think much about me helping to build anything, but what I do think about, Maddie, often is the level of talent that's coming out of Canada constantly. It's tough to not see us being at the top of the world for a long time. That's a tough, good group of kids. You need a little bit of size, at the in the 2024, our guys weren't, there were some big monsters, bruisers inside, but
Yeah.
beyond that, I mean, our guard, positions 1 through 3, and even when we have the right people, 4 and 5, just the best in the world. These guys are terrific athletes, and it's a great team.
Yeah, well said. I know, everyone's pretty excited for the future of the program to see what lies ahead, and just recently on the women's side too, in the NCAA, some of the women freshmen are just been absolutely electric. I think about Delaney Gibb from Raymond, Alberta, south of here,
Hmm.
who's playing at BYU, and I know you studied law there. She's had an electric season. Really cool to see the success a lot of the players are having. What how did basketball take shape for you, Karl? You're a young kid and starting to love the game. Just take me through your love for the game.
Well, it started when shortly after I was born. I have 2 older brothers, and my dad put up a basketball hoop on our garage. It's kind of a cement garage, so it was a little bit of a nice playing surface. But ever since he put it out there, I tried with my every bit I had to get two-handed to get that thing up and through the hoop. I remember my hands being just frozen, going in and doing a little bit more and do a little bit more. That's basically and all I did is try to get that stupid ball in the hoop for the rest of my life.
I love it. Yeah, well, it worked because you're a heck of a shooter. And the family moved from Utah up to Calgary here, and Your story here is very impactful and historic in terms of your time in Calgary. Just take me through that where you're learning like we're gonna move to where and just just how you because the game stayed constant for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I really knew nothing about Canadian basketball. I'm not sure though anybody in the world knew a whole lot before the '76 Olympics. Donohue had such an impact. But
Right.
I went up and my parents said they searched for the best high school they could find with basketball, which was Churchill. So they moved us right by there, and Skip Morgan came in my junior year, and of course he's just Skip Morgan. It was just absolutely terrific playing for him. And then with me, Maddie, my dad worked at the university, so he and Coach Howard were always conniving. That basically the rule of thumb was they would give me a pass and basically help me break into the gym at any time ever. And I got kicked out of there more times at 3:00 in the morning from the cleaning crew. Said, "You're not supposed to be in here." I'd say,
Right.
"Okay," leave for 20 minutes, come back. But I played in that red gym that we wound up playing those big games in. I was, that's the place where I continued to learn how to shoot. And then those Dinos in the '70s, those guys are tough players. So I kind of, as a junior high school or middle school, it wasn't hard at all kind of transitioning to high school or even then after that college, because the Dinos were tough. These guys, Pat Lee and Greg Hess and Tom Bishop and those guys, they could all play.
Yeah, and then I know, like you had mentioned before, like it was sort of inevitable that you would be a Dino. I don't think you had really considered other schools, correct?
You I really was going to go to Calgary. That's correct. I was hoping for some big time offer, and there were people that were snooping around, but nobody recruited me like Gary Howard. Gary Howard made
Right.
sure that he knew that I knew if I came there, he'd work with me all 5 years, and see if I could go to the next level. I remember I was talking about trying to play for the national team. He said, "I'll coach you that way." So it was pretty cool to see that kind of come to fruition. And then I think I told you last time, Maddie, I saw after the '76 Olympics, I was so proud of the Canadians. I phoned Donohue asking to try out for the team. And,
Yeah.
some 16-year-old from Calgary. He kind of chuckles, "Yeah, we heard a little bit about you, but are you Canadian?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, then you can't play for Canada." And
Right.
so I scurried around for the next couple of years and figured all the loopholes to make sure I wouldn't lose my American citizenship. And sure enough, I could do it. And I became Canadian, and phone was like, "Now I'm Canadian." Maybe he felt obligated at least to give me a shot, having, gone down that road to get my Canadian citizenship. But it was pretty neat. I mean, so for me, I phoned and asked to play for the team is how much I think of the guys, and I'm
Right.
begging for a spot.
Yeah, that's just such a great story. I mean, that you know, way about it would probably obviously never happen now. And
Yeah.
it's but I think it speaks to I mean, you can touch on this better than I could, but it just speaks to maybe the impact of the program at that time. I think we had kind of talked about it where it was definitely a pinnacle and viewed as such for the game, where it was such a level to play under Jack and some of the players that were playing for him at that time, where someone like yourself, a 16-year-old kid in Calgary, is like, this is incredible. Like, I need to have an opportunity. There's a lot more obviously that goes into camp invites now for the guys, but that's a great story. I know, like, um, and for our listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with your Dino career and your impact in the city and the province, like I want to talk about that, Carl. Just two-time Player of the Year and greatest athlete in University of Calgary history, leading scorer, just in the Hall of Fame. When you're making your way through your time there, Carl, in your career, like you're obviously seeing the success and the results, and you can't have a lot of that happen without great teammates, which you've mentioned before. But just take me through your time as a Dino and just trying to, work on your game and go to national team camps and just, be a part of success there.
Well, thanks, Matty. I never thought that I felt like I was a better player than other people, around the world. But I'll tell you what, we didn't want anybody to beat us.
Right.
So we were fiercely competitive, and we would figure out a way to stay with the best of the best, to compete with them. And we learned how to beat them and play with them. And I think in that process, Coach Donohue was a visionary man, not only with the program, but with us as individuals. He really did have us dreaming the impossible dream. And, we watched the man from La Mancha over and over and over again about this guy's, knocking down all the dragons and their windmills, but he would just dream the impossible dream. And he would constantly remind us how, that he, in his view, as good as anybody in the world. And he was he wasn't silly with his expectations, but he was a great basketball team. At least he carried it, had us carry on our feeling like we could play with anybody and beat anybody in the world during those years. That's how we felt.
What, we talked about before, you're at UFC and then some great players at UVic and the competition against those guys and matching up, and then obviously seeing them in national team moments too. Just maybe talk about those times you're competing against UVic and some of their players there.
Yeah, I mean, we were fiercely competitive, as to put a light statement on it. I mean, we really, and Victoria didn't like anybody thinking they could beat them, and they were all just teammates initially. But over the years, I mean, it was kind of unusual because we would sit there in Calgary, in the University Canada West, and just beat each other up. And usually we'd lose at Calgary, but sometimes we'd beat them. And then on we go into national team. And I became very, very, very good friends with all the players from Vic. Kelly Dukeshire and Greg Wiltshire, Eli Pasquale, and Gerald Kaznowski. And my heart mourns still losing our point guard. I was too early to lead such a great guy, who Taylor made the next NBA MVP from Canada, or the first one, right, with Nash. He was under the tutelage of Pasquale since he was a kid.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, some listeners know how great Eli was, and his impact, and Steve references him quite a bit, and others with the program, just how special he was. What obviously a great player, but he was a great leader as well, I assume. What was Eli like around the guys?
He was a quiet leader. Didn't
Okay.
sit there and try to yell at everybody and dominate himself in any conversation. Very humble and quiet in a lot of settings. Just by his leadership, he always led as though he was going to be. He was very confident but not cocky. He was humble but not weak. He came in and he started with God. He was a religious guy, and I think that that kind of filtered through our whole team. But I'll tell you what, it was much different in 1981 playing against Eli than going out and visit him at his funeral a few years ago. And it's really incredible rivalry. And that group of people was amazing. We were beating everybody in the world at that point. We could care less who they were. Maybe with Jordan is the exception, but not a very big one.
Yeah, we'll get into the MJ thing. When you're finishing up at Calgary and 84, you're getting drafted by the Nuggets. You're starting to look at your pro time. Just take me through that, Karl, what that experience was like going to a draft in 84. Obviously, it's different now, but, was pro ball obviously always a goal? And I know you, a person that, cares about education as well, and, makes that an important factor. But just talk about the pro step and that draft experience.
It was quite a year. So 84, we, of course, were one of the top 4 teams in the world. And besides the U.S., we could easily beat Spain. I think we lost them by 1 point. And Yugoslavia, we should have beat them by more than 1 point. There was no team in that tournament that could beat us. And so even with the exception of a couple players on the U.S. teams, I think we thought we were athletically and as a team, better than others. We were not cocky about it. We were just quietly confident. I'll tell you what, Eli was no nonsense. He was a no nonsense leader. Right. Laced up the shoes and he was in your face until the very end, and then give each other a high five and off we go. Ken Shields was a big part of all that, and I think in the Olympic team discussion, one thing that gets overlooked just a little bit, from 76 to 84, all of those guys, there was just something about the team where we just thought we could win. We could be the best team in the world, and we're one of the best teams, and we thought we could be the best. That was really interesting to feel all that, to transition all the way, to see the NBA, the guys coming out of Canada now and the NBA quality players. Yeah. It's amazing to us, but it's not anything that we didn't think we could do without having an NBA credential. I just want to pause that. Steve Nash I think they lost one game in the 2002 Olympics or the 2000 Olympics. Nash's team with a Jake Trano coach, that was a heck of a good team too.
Yeah.
McCullough, they had some great players on. I think Barrett, I mean, from our own RJ Barrett played for those guys. We all just, it was quite a great time for basketball in Canada.
Yeah, no, I mean, that 2000 team is really what, I mean, we touch on it. That kickstarted my love for the program. Like I was 18 and playing in college and staying up late to watch the games, and Steve and Roe and Todd and Jay they were tough, and they had that tough loss to France, right? And Steve Ward on his sleeve, and
that's right. Yeah. That was the game.
Yeah,
we should have won.
And then fast forward 24 years and tough loss this last summer to France again. So
seems like about the 20 year we bounce coming in was strong, and this is another one where we're coming after the world. It seems like the program, is in extremely good shape and just fantastic players.
Well, in 28,
more proud of it.
Yeah, no, in 28 in LA, I mean, maybe we're a bit biased, but I think the guys are coming for it, and I think everyone better watch out. I think they're pretty hungry for it. Yeah, like when you're going pro, Karl, like I know you played a little bit overseas too, and just doing the game, but the emphasis for a lot of players at that time was, okay, what's going on with the national team in the summer, and then you had that kind of 4-year run where you were going to Seoul in '88 as well, but you're also at BYU, I believe, at the time, taking law, right? Like, well, just take me through, being that student, but staying ready to compete and play on the national team and earn a spot for the Olympics as well.
Yeah. So after 1984, when we had lost in the bronze medal game, and I mean that was a tough defeat.
Right.
And I think I was tired too, and I rolled my ankle with some of my good buddies at BYU, and just did not feel like I could ever go to the basket at Denver. And they were high octane that year. I mean, those guys that was one of those high octane 150 point teams when there wasn't. They used to have that, but and the other thing that I think I did, which was before our time, was that long 3 shot. I mean, I could come in and nail threes all day long. And I did those when we were, on the national team. For whatever reason, I like to take that 25-foot jump shot and just let it rain. And that really there wasn't that game as much as there is now in the NBA, kind of the point for a 3-point shooter. But I don't have any. I mean, they were phenomenal athletes, great players. It's probably the best thing that happened to me, because I fulfilled a lifelong kind of desire of my own to serve a mission for our faith, and that was important to me. And everybody around me, including Donohue, respected that. And I remember saying, "We're going to keep you on scholarship while you're on your mission." I said, "Coach, I'm not going to be playing basketball. I'm going to be a Mormon missionary." And he chuckled and said, "Yeah, whatever." And towards the end of my mission, he phoned my mission president. "I don't have any idea how you can find that." And said, "Look, they put in the 3-point. It was all done in '88. I thought it was all done. At that point, I kind of moved on with my life. So finished up for, basketball was, our dream, but we need to make sure we knew what we were doing in school. And Howard did that as well. We had a good, athletically strong. I mean, if there was an academic all-Canadian back then, a lot of the guys on that team would have been them, including Johnny Roden, who was brilliant.
Like, I got to ask you about the '88 games, Karl. I mean, you set the 10-3 record in the game. Obviously, Oscar Schmidt is up there, and Carmelo too. And the record kind of came to light again this last summer when Steph Curry came close. But tremendous performance. Your name is forever cemented like that. What was the mindset in the game, or just maybe a feel? Just take me through that game in particular with the 10 threes.
I'm certainly nowhere near Curry, but there are times when he just kind of goes into another sphere, in another realm. And, when I did going on the Olympic team, it was not anything like that, but I'll tell you, I could put him in a hurry. And Eli that game must have get 10 of those shots must have come, left-handed, right-handed between legs. I mean, Eli just, other guys weren't necessarily shooting as well that game. So I picked up the slack and took a lot of shots, but none of us had a clue what we'd done, until years later. And Oscar or Carmelo Anthony's announced he's breaking the Olympic record. And I said, hold on, I think I got 10 40 years ago. So not so quick, but that was a great game, great team. I mean, it could have been anyone else that went off on any given night. Those guys could all play.
Yeah, I mean, listen, like in terms of the Canada basketball lore, you're there, and super cool, moment and stat. And I know some of our listeners, love to kind of highlight it, and just I think also speaks to how good the program was at that time, with some of the top players and guys that really cared about it. And Jack has set the path for so many players. And I just think about the greats you were playing alongside for the program, and they had to kind of get you going with the shooting. Was that like the shooting side, Carl? Like some people are naturally good shooters. There's a lot of work that goes into that, obviously, to become a good shooter. But what was like as you were working on your game all the time, like that, was that something that was just, I don't want to say easy, but it was just something that just kind of typically felt good for you all the time, your shooting ability?
One thing, and Coach Howard and Coach Donohue both encourage us, but one thing that I would do is I would pretend in my mind like I was in the gold medal game or in the NBA finals, and the last shot was a 3-point shot that rested on my shoulders, and that was never a close shot. So I was practicing since I was probably in high school, hitting that long range jump shot over and over and over again. And at some point, just the muscle memory, I don't know what it is, but it just all fits together. I think some guys have I mean, I don't know how it all works when you're able to shoot it, but a very quick release. I learned that as a kid. My two brothers were good and tough, and you better get the ball out of your hands. You get smacked, So I think the quick release had something to do with it. And then point guards like John Roden and Eli Pasquale, and those guys, and we had such a good Bill Wennington, who I think he has 3 rings. They were, albeit with Jordan, but they're still 3 NBA rings, and he got a lot of great time on that team. And Greg Wiltshire was a great player. Howard Kelsey and my buddy Dave Turcotte. We were quite a, I don't remember anybody, that there was any kind of sides or groups or anything. We were just a team. I think that was really what's really cool about that. A team that believed we could do anything.
No, I mean, listen, you got to have a guy to set some screens and get you a look. And there's some great guys that did that for you too. And I think that's what other guys mentioned, Carl, is like how connected a lot of those teams were at that time. As a group, there was just kind of a team of one, obviously, and I think you'd have to be that way to have the success. The the announcement that you're a 2024 inductee into the Canadian Basketball Hall of Fame, just talk about that. Obviously, kind of comes at a time just before we have you on the podcast, which is we're thankful for. But did you maybe know that was coming? Just maybe take me through that and what that's gonna look like for you to have your name inducted, man.
Yeah, it's Manny. Number one, it is awesome,
Yeah,
and number two, to be inducted with the teammates who've been inducted. And we should not go beyond when we talk about Coach Donohue. His right hand man was Steve Konchalski. Those two are a great pair, and Steve was able to be his partner in a very beautiful way. And also then we had some other great coaches on the team, but specifically Doc Ryan and Steve Konchalski were just great coaches. But we were very close. I get the sense that the team almost has that magic again. Those guys, they might be on other NBA teams, but there seems to be a lot of good chemistry, I think, with our guys, and they seem to not be hogging the ball and worrying about who gets whatever shots. Somebody lights up, you just get them the ball. That's what we used to do.
yeah. So I mean, guys that you played with are already in the Hall of Fame. Rightfully so. Now you're going to join them in your class. Allison McNeil is going in, who's a friend of ours. She's joined us. We're excited for her to get that moment too. Is that, I think that's like, will that happen in the fall? Like, what does that look like for you to
Yeah.
get that moment? Have they talked about that yet, or?
Yeah, Matt, it's just a shout out to Allison. I think
Yeah,
her last couple of years we played there, she is a heck of a basketball player, and I'm
yeah,
thrilled to be inducted along with her. You're absolutely right.
yeah.
And I think they're gonna, from what I understand, is they're probably gonna start another class for 2025, and then they
Okay,
might have a ceremony for both classes. Maybe I would think in April or whenever
okay,
they would do it, but somewhere probably April, May.
okay. Cool. Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing maybe a few more people announced, and seeing everyone go in and get celebrated. Carl, we've talked a lot about Canada basketball and the program and your time with it, and others. Obviously a great pinnacle for you in your career and others too. But when you look at the program now and compared to your time, like how much, like, a lot of people tell me they follow it really closely and they're immensely proud of it, and rightfully so. Just you've kind of hung up the sneakers a while ago now, but when you think about playing for the red and white, just overall experiences, like what has that meant for you for your career?
A ton. I think there's a. I should just make sure that there's other guys that were less heralded when we were playing,
Yeah,
but were critical of the team. Howard Kelsey and Dave Turcotte, I would say for '84 and '88 are two of those people. And Howard was a incredibly good point guard, and that guy could play very, very good defense. He's quicker than he lets on. And so it was always, and then we were played in '84, and Howard is also the way where he would know where to get me the ball. And I'm, really, really proud of him and all the guys that are get inducted. But it's a dream come true, Matty. It's not something you wake up and say, hey, I hope I make it into the Canada Hall of Fame. It's like scratch your head, say, how in the
yeah,
world did that happen?
yeah,
That's quite a ride.
yeah. I mean, you had great moments with the program, and I think like, the guys that you were playing with, all great in their own right. And I want to ask about matching up with Jordan and giving him work a little bit. And I think you had told me a story about he had remembered you a few years ago, but just or a few years after that. But just talk about some of the competition opportunities and other programs that you played against, and playing against guys like MJ and other big names too.
You know, number one, as I think I've said, I think Michael Jordan's the best player that has ever come near in the planet, just because he did so many different things so well.
Yeah,
He was just, and then he kept getting better and better and better and better. But we, in the documentary, we were the first dance in Pan America in the Pan American Games, and the U.S. was another very good team that we faced. But Eli broke his wrist, and so Jay and I got subbed in with about 10 minutes left to go in the first half, and Jay and I then just split the shooting guards and the point guard. It's just one of those nights. I still can't remember, exactly what happened, but I remember a couple of times thinking, you're not supposed to think about it when you're in the court, but thinking, geez, you just went underneath Ewing and did a little skip layup underneath and left him laying on the other side of the back. Where I'm running down thinking, that was a pretty good move.
yeah,
A couple of times in that game, it occurred to me what was happening, but not really very much. I mean, it's just, you're going to beat him every game, and that was another one of those games where it was my turn. I think, Matty, one of the things that Jay and Eli and Howard, Dave, all those guys, shooters that came from Canada needed to take a lot of shots to be a good shooter. And you need to learn on the Olympic team, if you're a good shooter, you're not going to take as many shots. And there's other great players and great shooters. And sometimes Jay Triano and Eli Pasquale are going to be so good, you're going to sit there and cheer for them all game.
right.
You're not going to fix something and they ain't broken. So there were times when Jay and Eli would just get going, and we would be every bit in for them. So it's neat to see that happen. I'm really proud of everybody that I played with. And I'm just grateful. Danny Mahar is another one. I just remember Danny was, man, that guy could play. He was,
Nice.
they beat Jordan in the ACC finals at
Yeah,
Duke.
yeah,
And I remember watching him and this team dance on the floor when they just beat Jordan. That's pretty good. I mean, that's dang good basketball. So, I think of Danny and all of our team, and then Gordy Herbert quietly shooting and a good solid quiet part of them. Next thing you know, he's coaching the German national team. I mean, Gordy in his own right through just great. I think Jack just wasn't about basketball. It was with a mindset that if you figure something out, that you can do it as good as the next guy, and if you really work at it, you can do it better.
Well, it sounds like maybe Gordy, might be a candidate for the senior men's national team right now. Like they don't have a head coach, and Gordy's name's going to kind of floated out there among others, and we'll see if that's something they come back to. Like he's obviously had success. Did a great job at Germany and helped elevate their program. So we'll see, if that comes to fruition. What just speak on Jack a little bit, Carl. Just the impact. The man he was off the floor too, and just you've touched on it already too in a lot of ways, but just a major influence on the program and many players. Just what kind of man was Jack Donohue?
Religious man. He was incredibly funny. That guy could make us laugh or make a joke about something in the middle of the crazy situations, but he was he was a great mentor. He taught us what to do, but then he expected us to live our lives. I think me making a decision to not play basketball for a couple of years, him being a supporter of that, someone who believes in his guys and believed I could shoot the basketball when I got permission. I didn't think I could. I didn't know what one of those things was. I hadn't shot any basketball. So,
Right.
But he was also strong. I mean, he would make tough calls in games. You'd get after refs, he could do it with a bunch of class, but he was he had a will to win and bring his guys up. But he was quite a wonderful. I mean, he's a wonderful person. I'm grateful for him, and everybody associated with the team, I'm grateful with. I mean, our first, as I said earlier, our first sad passing was Eli. I mean, I just can't believe Eli Pasquale is gone. That guy's larger than life in my view, and we miss him. But all those guys, Coach Gonçalves, it's great to see him. Hey, this new team, Maddie, I'm sorry, but they're my hands down to win the gold. The U.S. doesn't have the same group of players. Those were some special players. When you have LeBron and Curry kind of for their last, and Anthony Davis coming here, those guys were, I'm interested in who the United States puts together. If Edney joins the team at 7'4", Maddie, I think it's all over. I think if we get somebody, a big body inside, it's all over.
Yeah, well, we kind of like to do that on the podcast, kind of talk a lot of roster speculation, and friends of mine have joined us to do that, that are great Canada basketball kind of people as well. Yeah, it'll be interesting, right? I think we'll have the core that we need to have to win it and compete, and you add some size. Zach Edey obviously needs to be in there, and we're going to need a guy inside to help us, and maybe a vet like Kelly Olynyk is not back just based on time and career, so there's going to be some spots open, and I think the competition for that team is going to be very, very high. Yeah, and on the flip side, a team like the U.S., they might be in a bit of a transition in terms of their roster, and if you look at a program like France, they're kind of on the rise. They're improving more and more. So yeah, it's going to be super competitive. But when you see what a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is doing this season in the NBA, and clearly the leader for Canada basketball, you kind of like your chances. Is there a guy you really like watching right now that you really love his game?
Yeah.
Like who stands out to you?
I was just thinking the same thing in my mind was, I don't know there's anything that SGA does not do exceptionally well.
Right.
And so it's not just his jump shot, but he can drill Jays. I mean, he elevates and gets his shot off, and then he's leaving guys, and he just shakes people around, goes in on the bigs, rebounds, steals, blocks.
Yeah.
I just hope we build it around him. I thought Dylan Brooks, had one of the most amazing games in that bronze medal game. I'm a big Dylan Brooks fan as well. I hope he comes back, and and obviously Jamal Murray's a great part of the team. So we'll see. He should be part of it. But the Powell, there's some other guys. There's just some great players. Just getting the right mix, and then the coach. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Getting the coach. You're right. That's really this. It boils down to having the right coach for these players.
Yeah, I know what. Well said. What I know you were back in Toronto last summer with the alumni when Canada Basketball put together the reunion for a lot of former Olympians like yourself. What were the conversations like for you and the alumni with the current guys, and just in terms of recognizing maybe what's ahead of them and what's at stake and the tradition and the legacy? Like, what were the conversations and the interactions like between the alumni and the current players?
Pretty special. Number one, to see all those guys again, and to see all my buddies. John Hatch over in Switzerland. No matter where they've landed, Gordy and his coach in Germany. These are winners.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of neat to follow them. And so it was really, really great to get back together. And we had not done that. And to have the teams kind of merged, and to have everybody get to know each other and watch the guys practice and stuff, I think was incredibly helpful for us to buy into the program. It's a lot easier to, when you see these guys working out and how good they are and what the team's doing. It's a lot easier to talk about when you sat there in the gym and watch them go off. So yeah,
nice. Yeah, I think like others that have talked about it, Karl, they really, especially the alumni, have appreciated it. And I know the current players thought it was something really cool and special, and getting to meet people that maybe they've heard the name but didn't know them, and then they appreciated that opportunity to learn about the legacy and the tradition and what's kind of been laid down for them to take a hold of now and take the program to another level. So I thought that was a cool. I think were Howard and Dave pretty big on the alumni side to spearhead that. Like, who was, and I know Rowan kind of took it for Canada Basketball, but the alumni side was Dave and Howard.
Rowan, Paul Jones, I think, was instrumental in this whole thing.
Cool.
Rowan, obviously, and then on our side, both Dave and Howard. If we didn't have them, I don't think we'd have a foundation. And I probably wouldn't be talking.
Right.
I mean, they really have put some structure. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that's gone on to them, helping this thing continue on and create a standard where we can all be proud of it. And Howard and Dave were right in the middle of it together. We're really thankful for both of them, both personally as well as for what they've done for the program. So they were both my roomies, and I just couldn't speak more highly of either one of them. They're both very funny and very driven and great guys.
Yeah, I like it. I know Dave. When Dave joined us, he was a big Karl Tilleman fan and just raving about your ability to shoot the ball. So I know you guys have a close friendship. Okay, Karl, who is your top 5 or favorite 5 of all time for Canada basketball?
Okay, that's a hard one. I can kind of ease people in, but I wouldn't be able. I'm not sure I can stop at 5. Steve Nash.
Yeah.
Got to be Steve Nash. SGA is, I think, already established himself as number 1 right there with, and he'll get awards like Nash has. He's that good. Look, for me, Leo Routins, when he came in with his curly hair and 6'9" out of high school, they scrimmaged one time. They played a game one time against the Athletes in Action. I remember thinking, who is that guy? He was sleek. He was an all-star, and then went on, of course, to play at Syracuse, Minnesota, then Syracuse, and star in the NBA, and he's such a big part of the team. So, and then I just better be careful. I had him in there. I got to be careful. Jay and Eli have to be on the list. I'm thinking our big guys, probably an unsung hero for us. One of the best big guys the program's ever seen is Bill Wennington.
Nice.
And he was a heck of a character too. He's just a personality, throughout. So those are 5. I want to sit down and look at the list again if you think about it. But it's hard to go wrong with any of those guys, right? They're all kind of they're my year. But SCI, Dylan Howard. Look, I think Dylan Howard and Jamal Murray. But right now, I think SGA is clearly, I think, a number 1, and maybe tied with Nash. Nash did some pretty incredible things. And after that, I think you get down to a bunch of other really, really good players. For me, I think you need to put Eli on the list.
Hey, I mean, you played for program. I didn't, Carl. It's year 5 or 6-man too. Like that's why I like asking the question, right? I always love to see everyone's perspective. I think like um, there's names that are mainstays. Like Steve's usually in most fives, and now when you talk to people, like people in a short amount of time are always already saying, yeah, SGA is incredible. What he's done, just obviously with the Thunder, but also for the national team is super important and impactful. And yeah, I love like when you're gonna mention a guy like Leo and Jay or Eli and Bill, like the history and the tradition and the impact. I think that's very accurate, and I think that's well said. I love the getting everyone's perspective because it's not an easy thing. Like it's I think people have maybe a top and a favorite, and um, I think everyone that's in it is well deserved. So great 5, man.
And then with the Dinos, I just getting ready to go into the finals and down
Yeah,
at UBC. I think they're another great team, and I think the level of basketball is it's much higher than the kind of you look at crowds and things like that. It frustrates me because I'm waiting at the end of the day. If I can't get online, I'm like I want to know like at midnight who's won everything and going back through and
yeah,
looking at the standings. Always with Calgary. Lethbridge, Kelly Olynyk, his dad was Ken was quite a guy,
yeah,
and so my last game at Lethbridge, the whole side of the wall, so like hundreds of feet long, and draped on the wall, they bought a piece of butcher paper, and there they was with a pronghorn, butting me in the butt, and kicking me off and saying "So long, Karl." And I
nice.
remember Ken was. I said to Ken, I started laughing. I said, "Ken, will you give me that?
Yeah,
So could
yeah,
I take that home?" And so somewhere in the garages, somewhere there's we were very competitive and had a very great time. It was deeply special. I got to say, Matty, too, winning in Edmonton in Canada
yeah,
and having Charles Barkley, not want to even show his face in the second half after we were through hammering him.
yeah,
And then beating Yugoslavia, that was an incredible time for Canada basketball, along with the Olympics. That was quite a team, and
yeah.
again, kind of the same group of guys, and man alive, we were locked in. US didn't know what was going to hit them. We played them in Lethbridge in a scrimmage game and lost in overtime and did not put in any of our plays. So it's like we were like, oh, no, hold it. We're like 10, 12 points better than that, and they didn't know that. So
Yeah,
we met him in the quarterfinals, and Barkley was barking, "Yeah, these guys are going to see what's going to happen." He's barking from the foul and yelling at our fans. And at halftime, the CBS crew all of a sudden had their crew doing a shoot because they realized they're not going to be in the gold medal game. If CBS wants to get them on, they better get them in the last half of the semifinal because they were on their way out. And
nice.
that's another one. We just not like could you play against guys? We wanted to beat them and beat them bad. The only guy that Jordan and Ewing were pretty tough forces. Those guys were pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
No, but how many people get to say they not only played against those guys but played well, Carl, and had wins against them, whether it's Barkley or others, and you're competing with the likes of Mike and Pat Ewing. That's just super cool. Um, Carl, anyone you'd like to see join us on Canada Hoops? Who's got a good Canada basketball story that should join us and sit down with us?
Who I think would be interesting is guy from Alberta that was a superstar in '76. Name just escapes me, but he was a captain at BYU, and he was averaging. I think he was the second or third highest average in the '76 Olympics.
Oh,
And
that's Phil Tallstrip,
I've never heard it's Phil, and I've never, he's a dad, and
right?
we run across each other like we're in the same stomping grounds. But coach in high school, I think talk about well-grounded. That guy was outstanding in '76. The
Right.
D he played and the points he was putting up. So that's one. If you're going to surprise me with one, it's Phil Tallstrop because he's one of the best we've ever put on the court. When it came
Yeah.
down to in the Olympics, he was a superstar. So he's one I'd think about. If I was thinking about maybe Gordy Herbert for some fun.
Yeah. No, I'll work on it. Maybe if you have contacts for Gordy, we can discuss that
Yeah.
off air. Carl, any shout outs or thank yous before I get you out of here? And again, man, truly appreciate this. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, Maddie, thank you very much. And for me too, John Roden at Calgary. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody who gives me well over 1,000 assists probably at each season deserves something. John was a phenomenal right next to Eli. I mean, John was extremely great. My wife Holly, who's put through thick and thin, and is in her own right an incredible lady. So just my whole family. Gary Howard, Gary's getting a little older, and I saw him a few weeks ago down in Casa Grande, and shout out for Gary Howard and recruiting me and then letting us do our thing and getting us to the level we were at. So, and then go Dinos, right? Go Dinos this weekend. Or I guess it's the next weekend, right? They play BC this weekend, and that doesn't matter. I guess it's good to finish first. It'll help the rankings, right? So they still want to win, but it's really, you're going to have to beat 3 teams, and they're 3 good teams in the Nationals. But I think these guys can do it. They're good. That Nick Petrona's a gamer. I like him a lot. He is a tough player. He can shoot drives. He should be in the hunt for the National Player of the Year. That guy has done a phenomenal job for him.
Yeah, you bring him up. I was asking others about him because I think he played 2 seasons at Mount Royal before he went to Calgary, and I said I know he was very good at MRU, but everyone's saying that he's gotten a lot stronger and just really, I guess, more physical, tougher. So that's led to his seasons at great season at Calgary. So he looks really tough. I think he's leading the way for them.
Bulking guys up and getting ready to play at another level. That's Dan Van Horen to a T. Take a great player and give him everything he needs to go to the next level. That's what Van Horen does. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I saw him at Mount Royal a couple of times, and very, very good player. But he is an absolute gamer. Wish him the best. You should take him home and let's get one more for number 2 in Calgary.
Absolutely. All right, that's a wrap on another episode of Canada